China. A vast stage where nature performs impossible acts. Time has carved wonders that defy belief. Human ambition reaches into the most remote corners. Structures rise to meet every challenge. What seems like barriers becomes opportunities. Today, we descend into places that shouldn't exist. Xiaozhai Tiankeng. Deep in Chongqing's wilderness lies a scar in the earth so vast it holds its own world. Xiaozhai Tiankeng. The locals call it the Heavenly Pit. From above, it appears as a massive wound in the green flesh of the forest. But this is no ordinary hole. This is the deepest sinkhole on Earth. A vertical universe dropping 662 meters into darkness. An old farmer named Chen once told visitors, "My grandfather said that long ago, a dragon lived at the bottom. When it grew angry, the ground would shake and swallow entire villages. One day, the dragon flew away to become a river, leaving only this empty throne behind. Inside, a hidden climate thrives. High humidity, limited sunlight filtering through the opening above. Rare species of plants and animals that exist nowhere else on the planet. Descending into the pit feels like entering a world forgotten by time, a pocket of prehistory sealed off for thousands of years." The bottom remains dim even when sunlight reaches it. Here, life adapted to darkness flourishes in the perpetual twilight. Scientists have discovered species of blind fish, translucent insects, and fungi that glow faintly in the shadows. Today, a narrow path carved into the walls allows the brave to descend. But the old woman who sells tea at the entrance warns every visitor, "Count your steps going down. If you count differently coming up, the dragon is playing tricks on your mind." Xin Cave, in Guizhou province, hidden beneath the mountains, waits the most dramatic cave in Asia, Zhijin Cave. But locals know it by another name, the palace where gods stored their dreams. A group of explorers stumbled upon it by accident in 1980. One of them, now an old man named Liu, still remembers. "We were chasing a rabbit. It disappeared into a crack in the rocks. When we shined our flashlight inside, we saw eternity, a cathedral made by water and time, not by human hands." The cave has expanded without catastrophic geological events for over 2 million years. That's why it has grown so impossibly large. 12 kilometers of explored passages, ceilings reaching 150 meters high, equivalent to a 40-story building. Inside, geological structures look alien. Gypsum flowers bloom on the walls. Twisted columns rise like frozen tornadoes. Stone curtains hang in delicate folds, so thin that light passes through them, glowing amber and gold. Near the entrance, where sunlight barely penetrates, moss and ferns and lichen thrive in the cave's constant moisture. But deeper in, where no natural light has ever reached, the formations grow in absolute silence. Drop a stone here, and the echo takes 7 seconds to return. Local guides say that if you stand perfectly still in the deepest chamber, you can hear the cave breathing. It's actually the sound of underground rivers carving new passages, continuing the work that began 2 million years ago. The cave will outlive us all. It will be here long after our cities crumble to dust. Atelier Stairs, a metal staircase of thousands of steps, connects the remote village of Atelier to the outside world. It climbs a near-vertical cliff face with an 800-meter vertical drop. The villagers call it the ladder to heaven and hell. Before 2016, there were only vine ladders. Shocking images of children climbing these rope ladders sparked construction of the steel stairs. In just 3 months, the local government completed the project, overcoming extreme altitude and treacherous terrain. An elderly woman named Grandmother Mo has lived in Atelier for 73 years. She remembers, "When I was a bride, they carried me up the cliff in a bamboo basket. I was so terrified I couldn't open my eyes. My husband walked beside the basket, singing old songs to calm me. It took 6 men and 4 hours. The stairs are breathtaking. Some sections climb at a 70-degree angle. Atelier sits at the top, perched on a cliff edge that drops 1,000 meters to the valley below. In the past, these cliffs served as natural barriers, protecting the community from invaders and bandits. The mountain slopes provided terraced fertile soil, perfect for growing corn, potatoes, and other crops. Teacher Yang, who runs the village school, explains the deeper truth. People ask why we don't just move down to the valley. But this cliff is not a prison. It's our identity. For 400 years, we have been the people who live in the sky. If we leave, we lose who we are. Every morning, children descend the stairs to school in the town below. Every evening, they climb back up. 2,800 steps. Young legs grow strong here. Fear becomes courage. Some villagers have never descended. They were born on the cliff, lived on the cliff, and will die on the cliff. The world below is as foreign to them as the moon. Taklamakan Desert Highway. The Taklamakan, China's largest sand desert. Its name means place of no return in the local language, and for good reason. An ancient Silk Road merchant once wrote, "Those who enter the Taklamakan hear voices calling their names. These are the ghosts of travelers who died seeking water. If you answer, you will join them in the sand. Cutting through this ocean of death is the Taklamakan Desert Highway. A ribbon of black asphalt, stretching approximately 550 kilometers, the second longest road in the world built over shifting sand. Its construction was a monumental achievement. Workers battled constant sandstorms and conditions nearly uninhabitable for human life. Visibility drops dramatically during sandstorms, making driving deadly. The belt surrounding the highway is called the Green Great Wall.
No bottom.
It consists of plant species adapted to desert life, drought-resistant shrubs, salt-tolerant grasses, and hardy tamarisk trees. It's an ingenious solution to prevent sand dunes from burying the road, helping stabilize the surrounding soil. Every 3 kilometers, there's a well. Workers live in small stations along the highway, watering the plants, fighting the desert's constant attempt to reclaim the road. One worker, a man named Ahmed, has lived at kilometer marker 267 for 11 years.
Take me down to the abyss.
The desert is patient, he says. It can wait 1,000 years, but we water the plants every day. This is our answer to eternity. At night, the highway becomes surreal. Stars fill the sky in numbers impossible in cities. Truck drivers say that sometimes, in the distance, they see lights that disappear when approached. Desert spirits, they whisper, testing if you're real or already a ghost.
Cold clouds. Cliffs call to me.
Shanshan Oasis Town. This town in Xinjiang borders the Kumtag Desert, part of the vast Taklamakan system. It's a rare example of urban life coexisting with harsh nature. The locals say, the sand does not advance, the green does not retreat, and the people do not leave. But there's a story behind this defiance. In 1958, the desert was winning. Sand dunes had buried 3 villages in a single decade. The government ordered evacuation. An old man named Elder Yusuf refused. My father is buried here. His father is buried here. 7 generations sleep in this soil. I will not abandon them to the sand. He began planting trees alone, just him and a shovel and saplings. People called him crazy. For 5 years, he planted. Every tree died. The desert swallowed his work like it was nothing. Then in the 6th year, 1 tree survived. Then 5. Then 50. Other families returned. They joined him. Today, Shanshan is described as a natural miracle, thriving because of thousands of springs hidden beneath the sand and melt water from the Tian Shan Mountains. But the old-timers know the truth. It's not just the water, it's stubbornness. Elder Yusuf is 94 now, still planting trees every morning. The desert wants us gone, he says, hands gnarled like the roots he tends. But we will be here when the desert turns to glass. Panjin Red Beach. This unusual coastal wetland in Liaoning province is stained a startling crimson. The color comes from a plant called Suaida salsa, which grows in these marshes. Though this plant exists elsewhere, nowhere does it cover such vast areas or turn such brilliant red as it does in Panjin. A local fisherman's daughter, now a guide, tells the story. My grandmother said that long ago, a young woman waited here for her lover to return from war. She waited so long that her tears turned to salt and her blood soaked into the marsh. When autumn came, the plants turned red, the color of her unwavering heart. Even now, when the wind blows across the red beach, people say you can hear her still waiting. As autumn arrives, The plants change dramatically, painting the entire wetland a deep crimson. From above, it looks like the earth is bleeding. Up close, it looks like the world is on fire, but cold to the touch. Migratory birds, crowned cranes, black-beaked gulls, and egrets arrive by the thousands. The red provides perfect camouflage for their breeding grounds. Nature has painted a nursery in blood tones. The best time to witness this spectacle is sunset in October. The red plants reflect the setting sun, and for a brief moment, earth and sky become the same shade of impossible scarlet. Gaoling Scenic Area. In Chenzhou, dramatic trails wind along the narrow peaks of rolling mountains. This area in Gaoling draws countless young photography enthusiasts seeking the perfect shot. The ridgelines resemble natural roller coasters, with smooth yet sharp curves. The paths extend along thin peaks crowned by mountains. While generally safe, some sections are narrow and lack side railings, requiring extra caution. A young photographer named Wei comes here every season. He explains, "My grandfather was a shepherd in these mountains. He told me that the peaks are actually the spine of a sleeping dragon. Each vertebra is a mountaintop. When mist fills the valleys, you can see the dragon breathing. I've been photographing for 5 years, waiting to capture that one moment when the dragon wakes. The area was previously unknown but gained fame through images shared on social media. Now, on weekends, hundreds arrive before dawn." They line the ridges in silence, cameras ready, waiting for the sun to pierce the mist. Local guides warn visitors about the ghost paths, trails that appear on foggy mornings but vanish when the mist clears. Three hikers claimed to follow such a path in 2017. They were found hours later, confused, insisting they had walked along a ridge that doesn't exist on any map. The mountains here play tricks on perception. Distances deceive. What looks like a short walk can take hours. What seems impossible to reach lies just around the next bend. Anlong Pyramids. These formations in Guizhou province have attracted attention for their strange resemblance to Egypt's pyramids. What appears to be stacked blocks is actually rock formations created approximately 200 million years ago. Local authorities have identified at least 15 pyramid-shaped hills, with observation points and visitor centers now under development. An elderly geology professor, Dr. Chen, spent 40 years studying these formations. His office is cluttered with rock samples and ancient texts. People want to believe aliens built them, he says with a tired smile. The truth is stranger. These pyramids were shaped by water that no longer exists, under a sky that had different stars, in a world we cannot imagine. He shows a fossilized shell from the pyramid's peak. This mountain was once ocean floor. The earth remembers everything, even when we forget. Despite theories suggesting artificial origins, geologists confirm these structures are entirely natural. But local folklore tells different stories. The Miao people have a legend. Before humans, giant kings ruled the earth. They built mountains as monuments to their dead. When the last king died, the mountains stopped growing. These pyramids are their tombstones, and the treasures of their kingdoms lie buried inside. No excavations are permitted. The government declared them protected geological heritage. But treasure hunters still come at night, armed with metal detectors and old maps purchased from antique dealers. A local policeman patrols the area. Every month, we catch someone digging. They never find anything except rock and more rock. But they keep coming. The pyramids call to something in the human heart, the need to believe in mysteries greater than ourselves. At sunset, the pyramids cast long shadows that point toward the horizon like compass needles. Some claim the shadows align with constellations visible only during certain times of year. The pyramids keep their secrets, natural or otherwise. Wulong Karst Geological Park. This geological area is home to the so-called three natural bridges, which originated from the collapse of ancient caves. They form massive pits protecting isolated worlds covered in dense forest. Unlike some of the more isolated sites we've seen, this natural park has established paths for tourists. The Tianlong Bridge, with its otherworldly, fantastical appearance, served as a backdrop for major film productions. Directors love it because it looks simultaneously ancient and alien, as if carved by hands from another dimension. A film crew member who worked here in 2006 tells a strange story. We were shooting a scene at midnight. The lights failed suddenly. In the darkness, we heard singing, beautiful, haunting singing echoing under the bridge. When the lights came back on, the singing stopped. Our local guide went pale. He said, "That was the mountain children. They died in the flood of 1892. They sing when strangers disturb the bridges. At the end of the path stands Tianfu Post House, a reconstruction of an official inn once used by China's imperial government. Though remote today, it was once part of major imperial and trade routes through the mountainous southwest provinces. The original inn burned down in 1847 during a bandit raid. 23 travelers died trapped inside. Some guides refused to enter the reconstruction after dark. They say the smell of smoke appears sometimes, though nothing is burning. The bridges themselves are magnificent, 3 natural arches spanning a gorge, carved by the Yangshui River over millions of years. The largest, Tianlong, stands 235 meters tall. Standing beneath it creates a strange sensation, as if gravity might reverse at any moment. Geologists estimate the bridges will stand for another million years. Then they will collapse, and new bridges will form. The Earth is patient. It builds cathedrals in timescales humans cannot comprehend. Qiantang River tidal bore. This massive wave rushes upstream from Hangzhou Bay. It can rise to more than 9 meters tall and lasts anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, often followed by smaller secondary waves. Though spectacular, it's incredibly powerful. There have been fatal incidents when people approached too closely or were surprised by the wave's force. The bore has been observed and recorded for over 2,000 years. Ancient poets wrote about it with a mixture of awe and terror. One Tang Dynasty poem reads, "The river turns against itself, climbing backward toward the sky. Those who stand too close join the dead who ride the wave forever." A survivor of a 2007 incident describes the experience. "I was taking photographs. I thought I was safe. The wave was still far away. Then it hit the bend in the river and doubled in height. It came so fast. One moment I was standing on dry sand. The next, I was underwater, tumbling, not knowing which way was up. I survived by pure luck. The wave spat me out into the reeds. Other tidal bores occur in the Amazon, the River Severn, and the Petit Kodiak. But the Qiantang bore is the largest and most intense. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, thousands gather to watch. It's both celebration and memorial, honoring those the river has taken, respecting the power of water that refuses to obey the expected direction. Old fishermen can predict the bore's size by reading the moon and the wind. Their knowledge passes from father to son, an oral tradition dating back centuries. They say the bore is the river's heartbeat, and when it stops, the world will end. Scientists have a different explanation involving tidal forces and riverbed topography. The fishermen listen politely and then return to watching the moon. Pingshan Grand Canyon. This gorge stands as one of Hubei's natural wonders. Over thousands of years, water has carved through rock to form towering vertical walls. In some spots, the passage is so narrow that only a small boat can squeeze through. The walls rise 300 meters on either side, blocking out the sun for most of the day. Boatmen navigate by reading the echo of their voices off the stone. An old boatman named Uncle Lou has navigated these waters for 50 years. He knows every stone, every current, every mood of the canyon. "The canyon talks," he says, cupping his ear. "Listen. When it whispers, the water is calm. When it shouts, flash floods are coming from upstream. I've saved 17 lives by listening to the canyon's voice." Not far to the west is the Shiziguan Floating Bridge, a passage suspended above the Qingjiang River. Built from waterproof steel and floating foam, it's secured by chains anchored in the riverbed. Walking across the floating bridge is disorienting. It sways with each step. The river flows beneath, visible through gaps. Some people freeze halfway across, unable to move forward or back. A bridge keeper stands at each end. They've talked down dozens of paralyzed visitors. "Fear is natural," one keeper says. "The bridge moves because it's alive. It breathes with the river. Trust it, and you'll cross. Fight it, and you'll fall not into the water, but into your own fear." The bridge is located within a scenic area surrounded by mountains, valleys, and the tranquil waters of the Xinjiang. But tranquil is deceptive here. The Xinjiang has moods. It can go from peaceful to violent in minutes. Flash floods are common. Warning sirens echo through the canyon when upstream rains threaten. Tourists have exactly 12 minutes to reach high ground. The bridge keepers time it with stopwatches during drills. Nature's beauty here comes with nature's rules. Respect them or suffer the consequences. Wangxian Valley. This tourist area, developed at the site of an old quarry, features hanging houses, glass bridges, and artificial waterfalls. It's inspired by traditional Chinese architecture, with streets and buildings designed to resemble the ancient city. When night falls, LED lights create a dreamlike Chinese fantasy world. With floating lanterns and even an artificial moon, the developers transformed an industrial scar into something beautiful. But some workers from the old quarry days remain uneasy. A former quarry worker, now a janitor in the tourist area, confides, "We blasted deep into the mountain. Sometimes we'd break through into hollow spaces, caves that were never mapped. Cold air would pour out. Once, we found carved symbols on a wall inside one of these voids. Ancient symbols. Management ordered us to seal it immediately and never speak of it." The artificial moon that rises above the valley each night is controlled by computers, but 3 times it has risen on the wrong schedule, illuminating the valley at 3 a.m. Security footage shows nothing unusual. Technicians can't explain the malfunction. Visitors rave about the magical atmosphere. They take thousands of photos. They call it the most romantic place in China, but the old quarry workers remember what was here before. They remember what might still be here, hidden behind the LED lights and the artificial waterfalls. Some beauty is built on top of mysteries we chose not to solve. Pingtan blue tears. This natural phenomenon appears along the Pingtan coast in Fujian province. The glow in the sea comes from bioluminescence produced by microscopic marine organisms. When the water is disturbed, these creatures respond by emitting a soft blue flash. It's one of the few places in the world where this spectacle occurs regularly and can be seen with the naked eye. A marine biologist named Dr. Lin has studied the phenomenon for 15 years. She wades into the water at night, her footsteps leaving trails of blue light. People call it blue tears, she says, because of an old legend. The legend tells of a young woman whose lover drowned at sea. She cried for 40 days and 40 nights, her tears falling into the ocean. The sea goddess took pity on her and transformed her tears into light so that every generation would remember her grief and her love. Scientifically, Dr. Lin continues, the bioluminescence is a defense mechanism. The organisms create light to startle predators, but knowing the science doesn't make it less beautiful. Sometimes I think science and legend are saying the same thing in different languages. The blue tears appear most vibrantly during red tide events, when the microscopic organisms bloom in massive numbers. Local fishermen track the blooms, knowing fish will follow. On moonless nights, couples walk the beach hand in hand, each footstep igniting blue fire. The bioluminescence clings to their skin, making them glow like spirits. Photographers struggle to capture it. Cameras can't quite reproduce the ethereal quality of the light. It must be witnessed in person, experienced with your own eyes. The blue tears are unpredictable. Some nights the beach blazes with light, other nights, nothing. The organisms answer to rhythms humans don't fully understand: tides, temperatures, chemical signals in the water. We know what causes it, Dr. Lin admits, but we can't control it. Nature still has its secrets, even from science. She collects water samples, labeling them carefully, but sometimes, she confesses, She just sits on the beach and watches, scientist giving way to the wonder that drew her to the ocean in the first place. The blue tears will outlast us all, crying their ancient sorrow to shores long after humans are gone. From the depths of the earth to the shimmer of midnight seas, China reveals itself in layers. Each wonder opens questions that lead to more wonders. But now we turn our eyes upward, to mountains that pierce clouds, to peaks where humans have dared to build impossible dreams, to places where the boundary between earth and sky becomes meaningless. Zhangjiajie National Forest Park. This nature reserve in Hunan province features stunning rock pillars rising from dense forest, over 3,000 of them throughout the park, some reaching heights of 400 meters, and they appear as if floating in air. They formed over millions of years as softer layers of stone gradually eroded away from rain and moisture. Bit by bit, the earth cracked, leaving behind these narrow, independent towers that have withstood the test of time. A park ranger named Old Zhao has worked here for 30 years. He knows trails that aren't on any map. The pillars move, he says, completely serious. Not in ways you can see, but I've walked the same path for decades. Sometimes a pillar that should be on my left is on my right. Sometimes I find pillars where none existed the year before. Geologists dismiss this as confusion caused by fog and similar-looking formations. Old Zhao just smiles. Let them think what they want. I know what I know. The park houses the world's longest glass bridge, suspended 300 meters above the ground. On foggy days, the bridge disappears into white nothingness. Visitors walk on invisible glass above invisible depths. A bridge inspector recalls, "One morning, I was the first person on the bridge. In the fog, I saw figures ahead of me, maybe 20 people standing perfectly still. I radioed security, asking why tourists were on the bridge before opening time. They said I was alone." When I got closer, the figures vanished like smoke. I still do my job, but I don't go out there alone anymore. You'll also find the Beilong elevator here, considered the tallest outdoor elevator on Earth. Construction began in 1999 and finished in 2002, with the structure seamlessly integrated into the cliff face. Riding the elevator is surreal. You ascend through clouds. For a moment, you're blind, surrounded by white mist. Then you break through, and the world spreads below you like a painting. The elevator operator, a woman named Sister Wang, rides it 40 times per day. She's memorized the rhythm of the cables, the slight sway at certain heights. Sometimes, between floors 50 and 60, the elevator gets cold suddenly. Ice cold, even in summer. It lasts maybe 5 seconds, then normal again. Every operator feels it. We don't talk about it with tourists. Nearby lies Baizhang Gorge, which shares a similar landscape and features an elevated road cutting through the terrain. The landscape is filled with pillar-like rock formations covered in lush vegetation. A botanist studying the unique plants here made a discovery in 2018. Some of the vegetation on the isolated pillars contains genetic markers suggesting they've been separated from ground-level cousins for over 100,000 years. Evolution in isolation, happening in vertical islands of stone. These pillars are like islands in the sky, the botanist explains. Birds can't easily reach them. Seeds rarely travel between pillars. So life on each pillar evolves independently, becoming unique. We're finding new species on almost every pillar we study. The park inspired the floating mountains in a famous film, but the director admitted, "We didn't invent anything. We just showed the world what was already here." Reality was stranger than anything we could imagine. At dawn, when mist fills the valleys and only the tops of the pillars are visible, they truly do appear to float. The sun turns the mist golden. The pillars cast no shadows because they have no ground beneath them, only cloud. Photographers wait for this moment, the floating mountain sunrise. Some have waited for weeks. The conditions must be perfect. Temperature, humidity, wind speed all aligned. Old Zhao watches them from his ranger station. He's seen thousands of tourists come and go. They want to capture the magic, he says, but the camera only sees what's there. The magic is what's not there, the space between the pillars, the silence inside the mist, the feeling that you've left the normal world behind. The pillars stand eternal, or as eternal as stone can be. In another 1,000,000 years, they too will erode to nothing. But for now, they defy gravity and logic, reaching toward impossible heights. Tiger Leaping Gorge, With nearly 4,000 meters of vertical difference between the river course and surrounding peaks, this ranks among the deepest gorges on Earth. The Great Jinsha River carved at the name given to this upper stretch of the Yangtze. The massive volume of water is compressed into a narrow passage, making it wild and turbulent. Legend says a tiger once escaped a hunter by leaping across the narrowest point. Today, a statue called Tiger Leaping Stone marks the spot. But a local guide named Tashi tells a different version. The tiger didn't escape. It jumped and fell into the river. The hunter watched it drown, swept away by the current. But that night, the hunter dreamed the tiger spoke to him. "I chose my death. Better to die free in the river than caged by your trap." The hunter never hunted again. He became a monk and built a small temple at the gorge. That temple still stands, though few tourists know to look for it. Tashi leads trekking groups through the high trail, a narrow path carved into the cliff face 2,000 meters above the raging water. The trail is technically illegal now, too dangerous, but guides like Tashi know secret access points. The government closed it because people died, Tashi explains while navigating a particularly narrow section. They fell, or rock slides took them, or they just got too tired and made a mistake, but some of us still use it. Not for money, because the gorge demands witnesses. If no one walks this path, the spirits of those who died here will be forgotten. The gorge has moods. In spring, snowmelt swells the river into a roaring beast. In winter, the water drops, and you can see the rocks that give the rapids their fury. In autumn, the gorge is quietest, almost meditative. A tea house perches impossibly on the trail's midpoint. An old woman has run it for 40 years, carrying supplies up on her back. No roads reach it. No helicopters land there. Everything arrives by human effort. She serves butter tea and barley cakes to exhausted hikers. Her hands are weathered like the cliffs. "My husband fell from this trail 32 years ago," she says matter-of-factly. "I found his body downstream 3 days later. I buried him at the temple. Now I stay here, serving tea. This is my meditation, my prayer. Every cup I serve keeps his memory alive." The gorge is sacred to the local Naxi people. They believe the river is a dragon's blood, flowing from an ancient wound. The white foam is the dragon's breath. The roar is the dragon's voice, calling to the sky. At sunset, the gorge walls glow red-orange. The temperature drops sharply. Hikers huddle in their jackets, watching the sun disappear behind the western peaks. In that moment of transition between day and night, the gorge reveals its true nature. Not a tourist attraction, not a geological formation, but a living thing, ancient and powerful, tolerating human presence but never tamed. The tiger made the right choice, perhaps. Better to leap and fail than never to leap at all. Mount Fanjingsan, considered a sacred site, this mountain features a stunning vertical rock formation with 2 temples perched on its summit. One temple is dedicated to the future Buddha, the other to the historical Buddha, separated by a deep fissure. A narrow stone bridge connects them, symbolizing the spiritual journey toward enlightenment. Simply reaching the summit requires true dedication. Thousands of stone steps must be climbed. A monk named Shiming Dao has made the pilgrimage 1,247 times. He keeps count with prayer beads, 1 bead for each ascent. "I will climb until I reach 10,000, he says. "Then I will know if enlightenment comes from the destination or from the journey." He's 73 years old. His legs are thin but strong as iron cables. He climbs barefoot, even in winter. Other pilgrims ask him why. "Shoes separate you from the mountain," he explains. The cold, the heat, the sharp stones, these are the mountain teaching you. If you block the teaching with rubber and leather, how will you learn? The two temples sit on the mushroom-shaped rock like birds on a branch. The gap between them is 3 meters wide, narrow enough to cross, wide enough to kill if you fall. A young nun tends the future Buddha temple. She's been there for 6 years, never descending. Supplies come up via a pulley system. My master sent me here when I was 20, she says. She said I talked too much. Up here, there's no one to talk to except Buddha and the wind. I've learned to listen instead of speak. The other temple, dedicated to the historical Buddha, houses an elderly monk who took a vow of silence 40 years ago. He communicates through hand gestures and written notes. Pilgrims bring him questions. He writes answers in beautiful calligraphy on rice paper. One pilgrim asked, "How do I find peace?" The monk wrote, "Stop searching." Another asked, "What is the meaning of the gap between the temples?" The monk wrote, "The gap is where you are. The temples are where you think you should be. Stop crossing. Be in the gap." The stone bridge connecting the temples is worn smooth by centuries of feet. No railings protect you. One step too far to either side and you plummet 400 meters to the rocks below. Yet pilgrims cross without fear. If you fear falling, Shimingdao explains, you will fall. Fear makes you stiff. Stiffness makes you clumsy. Trust makes you fluid. Fluid survives. At dawn, the mountain rises above the clouds. The temples appear to float in an ocean of white mist. The sun strikes them first, turning the stone golden before the valleys below receive any light. This is when pilgrims pray. This is when the mountain feels most sacred. A visitor once asked Shimingdao, "Do you believe Buddha actually lived in this mountain?" The monk smiled. "Buddha lives wherever suffering ends. Make anywhere sacred, and Buddha is there. This mountain is sacred because we make it so with our devotion. The wind at the summit never stops. It carries prayers written on flags, scattering syllables across the provinces. It carries the breath of pilgrims who died climbing. It carries the silence of monks and the questions of seekers." The mountain stands. The temples endure. The gap between them remains unbridged by anything except faith and a narrow strip of stone. Climbing down is harder than climbing up. Your knees shake. Your legs threaten to quit. Shimingdao always says the same thing to struggling pilgrims. Going up, you think you're seeking Buddha. Going down, you realize Buddha is in your legs, your breath, your determination. You carried Buddha up. Now carry him back down. He's heavier now because you've met him. Mount Hua. This area is renowned for its dramatic cliffs and is one of the 5 sacred Taoist mountains. For centuries, it has been a pilgrimage site where devotees come to pray, meditate, and seek spiritual balance. The main ascent follows an extremely steep path of countless steps carved into rock. Along the way, there are Taoist temples, dwellings, and ancient shrines built into caves or perched on cliff edges. A side route leads to the infamous plank walk, built centuries ago by Taoist hermits and monks. Every visitor wears a harness and clips it to safety cables, moving one climbing ring at a time along the narrow path. Though the path is secure, it gives the impression of being suspended in air. A maintenance worker named Chen has walked the plank path over 2,000 times. His job is to inspect the cables, replace worn boards, and rescue tourists who freeze in fear. At least once a week, someone can't move, he says. They get halfway and their body stops obeying their mind. I have to talk them through it. Sometimes it takes an hour. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they laugh hysterically. Fear does strange things. He pauses, looking out over the 1,000-meter drop. The strangest part is that I've stopped feeling afraid. The first 100 times, my hands shook. Now it feels normal. I've become something between human and bird. Not quite flying, but not quite walking either. At the end stands the chess pavilion, balanced atop an isolated peak. According to legend, a Taoist immortal played chess here with a mortal who climbed to seek wisdom. The mortal asked, "How do I become immortal?" The immortal moved a chess piece and replied, "You already are. You're immortal in this moment, which will never die. Every moment you've lived remains eternal in the past. Immortality isn't about lasting forever. It's about being completely present now." They played one game. It lasted 3 days. When it ended, the mortal descended the mountain. He never sought immortality again. The chess pavilion still has a stone board with pieces carved from jade. Tourists aren't allowed to touch them, but some claim the pieces move on their own. A guide who worked there for 20 years swears, "I've set up the board exactly the same way each morning." Three times, I've returned to find the pieces in different positions, not scattered like someone knocked them, moved like a game in progress. The Taoist monks who maintain the mountain temples are a secretive group. They allow tourists during the day but close the temples at sunset. What they do at night, no one knows. A former monk who left the order after 15 years hints at the truth. We don't close to keep tourists out. We close to keep something in. The mountain has residents who aren't human. They've been here longer than we have. We have an understanding with them. They stay hidden during daylight. We give them the night. It's worked for 1,000 years. He refuses to elaborate. When pressed, he simply says, "Some knowledge is dangerous. The mountain keeps its secrets for good reasons." The sunrise from Mount Hua's East Peak is considered one of China's most spectacular sights. Crowds gather at 4 a.m., shivering, waiting for the sun to break the horizon. When it comes, it's sudden. One moment, darkness. The next, the entire world turns gold. The peaks cast long shadows across the sea of clouds below. For a brief moment, you understand why ancient people worshipped the sun. Then it's over. The sun rises higher, becomes ordinary again. The magic fades into daylight. But those who've witnessed it carry something back down the mountain. Not enlightenment, perhaps, but a memory of transcendence. A moment when they stood between earth and heaven and felt equally at home in both. Three Gorges Dam. Built on the Yangtze River, this is the world's largest hydroelectric power station in terms of installed capacity. It generates approximately 10% of China's electricity, powering national development and industrial growth. On one side of the dam sits the world's largest and most advanced ship lift, designed to overcome a 100-meter elevation difference. This engineering marvel uses floating platforms, counterweights, pressure sensors, and hydraulic automation. A ship enters the lift chamber, gates close around it to form a massive water tank, and motors raise or lower the entire structure. Once reaching the target level, gates open and the ship continues on its way. An engineer named Director Wu helped design the ship lift. He spent 12 years on the project. People think engineering is about calculations and steel, he says. But this lift required us to understand water like a living thing. Water has memory. It resists being moved. We had to design something that works with water, not against it. He shows blueprints covered in notes and revisions. We tested for every scenario: earthquakes, power failures, extreme temperatures. But on the first full test, the lift jammed at 60 meters. All our calculations said it should work. It didn't. A technician figured it out. A school of fish had entered the chamber. Their movement, though tiny, created vibration patterns the sensors interpreted as structural instability. The system shut down to prevent damage. We added fish screens. Director Wu laughs. Not in any engineering textbook, but that's the reality. You can plan for everything except nature's unpredictability. The dam itself displaced over 1.3 million people. Entire cities were flooded to create the reservoir. Ancient temples, homes that had stood for centuries, farmland worked by countless generations, all submerged. An old woman who was relocated tells her story. They moved us to a new apartment. Modern, comfortable. Government was generous with compensation. But I dream of my old house every night. It's underwater now, 100 meters down. Sometimes I imagine fish swimming through my kitchen, eels sleeping in my bed. The home where I raised 5 children is gone. They gave me money. Money doesn't replace memory. Some claim to see lights beneath the reservoir at night. Divers report unusual sonar readings, geometric shapes that shouldn't exist naturally. A diver named Captain Feng investigated in 2015. At 80 meters, I found a temple, he reports, perfectly preserved. The water protected it. I swam through corridors where monks once walked. I saw statues of Buddha, still sitting in meditation, waiting underwater for who knows what. I touched one. Its eyes were open. In the murky water, lit by my flashlight, it looked alive. I left quickly. Some places are sacred even when submerged. The government denies this. No temples exist at that depth, they claim. Captain Feng lost his diving license for spreading misinformation. He doesn't care. I know what I saw. The past doesn't disappear just because you flood it. It waits, patient, underwater. The dam powers cities. It prevents floods that killed thousands in previous centuries. It's an engineering triumph, a symbol of human capability. But it's also a grave for everything it drowned. Progress and loss, achievement and sacrifice, the dam embodies both. Every light bulb it powers is lit by a memory of something lost. Director Wu understands this. Late at night, when the dam is quiet, he sometimes stands on the observation deck, looking at the dark water. We built something that will last 1,000 years, he says softly. But we destroyed things that had already lasted 1,000 years. I'm proud of what we created. I'm haunted by what we erased. Both things are true. I carry both. The dam continues its work. Water flows, turbines spin, ships rise and fall in the lift, and beneath it all, the drowned world waits in silent darkness, remembered by fewer people each year. From peaks that touch clouds to dams that hold rivers, China's landscape tells stories of ambition and sacrifice. Every marvel built requires something lost. Every natural wonder contains mysteries science cannot fully explain. But the journey continues. Roads that shouldn't exist, cities that defy nature, places where the line between the real and the impossible becomes meaningless. Yaxi Expressway. This highway in Sichuan province is an engineering masterpiece piercing through rugged mountainous terrain. Its construction posed immense challenges, spanning areas with extreme elevation changes and high seismic risk. To complete the project, dozens of bridges, tunnels, and special structures were built to overcome the difficult landscape. A construction worker named Lao Ma spent 7 years building this highway. He lost 2 fingers to frostbite during a winter shift at 4,200 meters elevation. He doesn't regret it. "My grandfather was a porter on the T-Horse Road," he explains, holding up his damaged hand. "He carried 50 kilos on his back through these same mountains. The journey that took him 6 days now takes 6 hours by car. I gave 2 fingers so that millions could travel safely. It's a fair trade. But the highway came with a cost beyond human sacrifice." The construction cut through habitats of snow leopards and rare birds. Entire migration routes were disrupted. An environmental scientist who protested the highway's route says bitterly, "We screamed about the damage. Nobody listened. Progress doesn't wait for leopards. Now we count the animals left and document their decline. Future generations will ask what we did. We'll have to tell them. We built a highway. The expressway features the Zhangjiajie Bridge, suspended 270 meters above a gorge. Drivers report strange phenomena when crossing at night. Dashboard compasses spin wildly. Radio stations fade to static. Some claim to see lights in the valley below, moving lights that pace the car before vanishing. A toll booth operator collects these stories. "I've worked here 5 years. 73 people have reported the lights. Always between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Always on nights with no moon. I've seen them myself. 3 times. They're not headlights. They're not fires." There's something else. The government investigated once, found nothing, declared it mass hallucination caused by altitude and fatigue. The lights continue to appear. The reports continue to accumulate. The expressway connects cities, enables commerce, transforms regional economics. It's a vein of progress, pumping development into isolated areas. But late at night, when trucks rumble through the darkness and drivers fight sleep on endless mountain curves, the highway feels less like human achievement and more like intrusion, a scar across the face of something that never wanted to be crossed. Guilin and Yangshuo. In southern China, Guilin is home to thousands of karst mountains carved over millions of years by flowing rivers and rain. The crown jewel of Guilin is the Li River, which winds gracefully through the peaks. It's crossed by elevated bridges carrying high-speed trains. Building these railways required drilling hundreds of tunnels and constructing thousands of bridges. A train conductor named Sister Joe has ridden this route for 18 years. She knows every tunnel, every bridge, every twist of the track. Passengers take photos and call it beautiful, she says. They don't know the stories. Tunnel 17 claimed 4 workers during construction. A collapse. They're still inside. The company couldn't recover the bodies without risking more lives, so they poured concrete over everything. Those 4 men are in the mountain now, part of the tunnel forever. She lowers her voice. Sometimes when we pass through Tunnel 17, the train's lights flicker. Just for a second. Engineers say it's electrical interference, but conductors know different. The men are saying hello, reminding us they're there. Sailing south, one arrives at Yangshuo village, the final stop along the Li River. Visitors glide down the Yulong River, a tributary of the Li, on traditional bamboo rafts. The raft operators are mostly elderly men who've worked the river their entire lives. One of them, Uncle Feng, is 81. He pulls his raft with the strength of someone half his age. I was born on this river, he says, navigating around rocks with practiced ease. My father's ashes are scattered in these waters. His father's too. When I die, my son will scatter mine here. The river is our family. It takes care of us, and we take care of it. He points to a section of riverbank. That's where I proposed to my wife 58 years ago. That tree, see it? We planted it together. Now look how big. The tree grew. We grew old. The river stayed the same. The river is eternal. We are temporary. A cable car leads to RV Peak, providing panoramic views of the spectacular landscape. At the summit, a small temple sells prayer flags. An old nun tends it. Tourists ask her, "What should we pray for?" She always gives the same answer. Pray to remember this feeling, the feeling of being small beneath the sky. When you return to the city, you'll forget. You'll think you're important again, but you're not. The mountains know. Remember the mountains. The landscape here has inspired Chinese painters for 1,000 years. Mist-shrouded peaks, winding rivers, the soft curves of karst formations. This is the landscape that became synonymous with Chinese aesthetics. But tourism is changing it. Hotels multiply. Bamboo rafts now have motors. Ancient villages get restored into theme parks. Uncle Feng sees it happening. My grandson wants to work in Shenzhen making phones. He says there's no future on the river. Maybe he's right. Maybe in 20 years, all the raft operators will be gone, replaced by electric boats with recorded messages. The river will survive. But the soul of the river, the knowledge passed from father to son for 100 generations, that will die. Progress kills tradition slowly. So slowly you don't notice until it's already dead. He pulls onward. The river flows. The mountains watch in silent judgment. Tianmen Mountain. Amid towering peaks and winding roads lies this breathtaking natural wonder. A scenic mountain road with 99 hairpin turns ascends toward the summit, snaking through uniquely shaped hills. The Tianmen cable car is among the longest and highest in the world, stretching 7.4 kilometers and taking 30 minutes to reach the summit. The route culminates at Heaven's Gate, a natural arch said to connect earth to sky. To reach it, one must climb the stairway to heaven, 999 stone steps, symbolizing good fortune and immortality. A step counter named Wei has climbed these steps 4,000 times. His job is to verify they remain safe. Every morning at dawn, he begins his count. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 999. I've found the count wrong 3 times, he says, showing a worn notebook filled with tallies. Once there were 1,001 steps. Once there were 997. Once, impossibly, there were 999 going up but 1,003 coming down. I reported it each time. Engineers inspected, found nothing wrong, told me I miscounted, but I don't miscount. I've counted these steps 4,000 times. I know when something changes. He's not the only one who notices strangeness. Tourists report feeling watched while climbing. Photographs develop with figures in the background that nobody saw when taking the picture. Prayer flags tied to the railings untie themselves and blow away, even on windless days. A Taoist priest who tends a small shrine near Heaven's Gate offers an explanation. The gate is thin here, the barrier between worlds. Spirits pass through more easily than other places. Most are harmless, curious. They watch the living and wonder why we climb so desperately toward heaven when we're already standing in it. The view from the summit is incomparable. On clear days, you can see for 100 kilometers. Cities look like toys, rivers look like silver threads. Clouds gather below you, making you feel like you're standing on top of the world. But fog comes quickly here. Within minutes, visibility can drop to zero. The cable car stops. Tourists become stranded on the summit, surrounded by impenetrable white. During one such fog event in 2019, 300 people were trapped overnight. No injuries occurred, but many reported the same strange experience. They heard singing, beautiful, wordless singing coming from the fog itself. A tourist recorded it on his phone. Audio analysts couldn't identify the source. It wasn't human. It wasn't instrumental. It was something else entirely. Haunting and lovely and inexplicable. The recording went viral. Millions listened. Everyone had theories. Nobody had answers. The mountain keeps its secrets. Heaven's Gate opens to the sky but reveals nothing of what might wait on the other side. Datong Hanging Temple. This temple in Datong clings to a cliffside, appearing to defy gravity. Its main structure is secured by wooden beams embedded directly into the rock face. Originally built in the 8th century during the Tang dynasty, it was later restored during the Ming and Qing periods. The temple is dedicated to Guanyin Bodhisattva, the goddess of mercy highly revered in Chinese Buddhism. An architectural historian named Professor Jiang has studied the temple for 40 years. He still doesn't fully understand how it stands. The beams go only 30 centimeters into the rock, he explains, pointing at the ancient wooden supports. According to engineering principles, this shouldn't support the weight. The temple should have collapsed centuries ago. But here it stands. Something beyond our calculations holds it up. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. I'm a scientist. I don't believe in miracles. But I've measured every angle, tested every stress point, calculated every load. Mathematically, this temple should not exist. Yet it does. Science must eventually accept when reality contradicts its predictions. A monk has lived in the temple for 23 years. He's the only permanent resident. Tourists visit during the day, but at night, he's alone suspended above a 60-meter drop. Aren't you afraid it will fall? Visitors ask. He smiles. I'm afraid every single day. But fear and faith are the same thing from different angles. I'm afraid because the temple is impossible. I have faith because it stands anyway. Both feelings are honest. I live with both. At night, he sits in meditation in the main hall. The temple sways slightly in the wind. He's learned to breathe with its rhythm. The temple is alive, he says. It breathes. It moves. It adjusts to wind and temperature. If it were rigid, it would shatter. Because it's flexible, it survives. This is the lesson. Strength comes from yielding, not from resistance. He rarely descends. Supplies are delivered by pulley. His only companion is a cat that appeared 3 years ago and never left. The cat is smarter than me, the monk laughs. She knows this temple will stand. She has no doubts. Only humans worry about impossible things. Animals accept reality as it is. The temple has survived earthquakes, floods, wars, and 13 centuries of weather. Engineers study it, trying to learn its secrets for modern construction. But perhaps the secret isn't engineering. Perhaps the secret is faith, the collective faith of millions who've prayed here. Their belief physically holding the temple to the cliff through sheer force of devotion. Rational? No. Possible? The temple itself is the answer, hanging in space, defying logic, year after year after year. Duge Bridge, standing 565 meters above ground and spanning 1.3 kilometers, this ranks among the highest bridges in the world and is hailed as a modern engineering marvel. Its construction faced numerous technical challenges, including mountainous terrain, thick fog, strong winds, and limited access. The bridge is designed to withstand earthquakes and severe weather, engineered to last at least 100 years. The chief engineer, a man named Director Chen, spent 9 years on this project. It consumed his life. His marriage ended. His health declined. But the bridge stands. People drive across in 3 minutes, he says, looking at his creation from the valley below. They don't know. 22 workers died building this. 22 families received compensation and condolences. 22 funerals I attended. Each one, I promised the family. Your father, your son, your husband, his death was not meaningless. This bridge will serve millions. His sacrifice matters. He wipes his eyes. But late at night, I wonder, does it matter? Does any amount of service justify 22 deaths? I built something that will outlast me by centuries. But I dream about the men who died and they ask me, was it worth it? I don't have an answer. A bridge maintenance worker named Young Liu walks the span every week, inspecting cables and checking for stress fractures. He's acutely aware he's walking above a 565-meter drop. The first time, I vomited from fear, he admits. The height, the wind, the knowledge that one mistake means death, it paralyzed me. My supervisor had to walk me back. I almost quit, but I thought about the men who built this. They worked in worse conditions with less safety equipment. If they could build it, I can maintain it. He's found graffiti in impossible places on the underside of the bridge where no one should be able to reach. Messages in Chinese and English. I was here. Remember me. Li Wei, 1987 to 2014. Li Wei was a worker who fell during construction. His body was recovered from the valley, but somehow, impossibly, his name appears on the bridge, carved into steel in a location accessible only to birds. Young Liu doesn't try to explain it. Some things you just accept. Maybe his ghost did it. Maybe a friend climbed down to honor him. Maybe I'm hallucinating from altitude. Doesn't matter. His name is there. He's remembered. That's what matters. The bridge connects communities that were previously separated by a day's journey. Travel time, 3 minutes. Economically, it's transformed the region. Villages that were dying now thrive with tourism and trade. Progress has a price. The bridge paid it in blood and sacrifice. Now it collects its debt in service, carrying millions across the void, most never knowing the cost of their 3-minute crossing. Hong Kong, a special administrative region of China since 1997, after being a British colony for more than a century and a half. It enjoys a high degree of autonomy under the one country, two systems principle, allowing it to maintain its own legal, economic, and political frameworks. With around 1,500 skyscrapers, it surpasses any other city in the world. It's also one of the most densely populated areas on the planet. A rooftop gardener named Mrs. Lam tends vegetables on the 47th floor of an apartment building. She's been doing this for 30 years, growing bok choy and herbs in containers, suspended nearly 200 meters above the street. When I came here from Guangdong in 1985, Hong Kong was different, she says, watering tomatoes with the city sprawling below. Less crowded, more human scale. Now it's all glass and steel, vertical instead of horizontal. People live in cages, apartment cages, office cages, subway cages. So I grow vegetables, to remember that life comes from soil, not concrete. She points to the skyline. Each building represents someone's dream, but also someone's displacement. To build that tower, an old neighborhood was demolished, families scattered, history erased. Progress doesn't ask permission, it just comes, like a flood, and you either swim or drown. Culturally, Hong Kong is a blend of East and West, where both Chinese New Year and Christmas are widely celebrated. Street markets are a vital part of its cultural and social life, bustling with neon lights, loud vendors, and an incredible array of goods. A street food vendor named Uncle Wong has operated the same stall for 43 years, selling curry fish balls from a cart in Mong Kok. He's watched Hong Kong transform around him. I've seen trends come and go, he says, stirring his curry pot. Fashions change, languages mix, buildings rise and fall, but people still eat. They still need food, laughter, connection. My curry balls recipe hasn't changed in 43 years. Maybe that's foolish. Maybe I should innovate. But there's value in constancy. In a city that never stops changing, someone needs to stay the same. One of the city's major infrastructure projects is the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. It's the world's longest sea-crossing bridge, spanning 55 kilometers and incorporating a massive bridge, underwater tunnel, and artificial islands. An engineer who worked on the underwater sections tells of strange encounters. At 40 meters depth, in the tunnels we were building, we'd sometimes find the water disturbed. Currents where there shouldn't be currents. Equipment moved when no one touched it. Once, a diver saw a figure in the darkness, humanoid but wrong somehow. When he shined his light, nothing was there. He surfaced immediately, refused to dive again. We wrote it off as nitrogen narcosis. But 3 other divers reported similar experiences. The bridge connects Hong Kong, Macau, and Zhuhai, shrinking what was a 3-hour ferry ride to a 30-minute drive. It's an engineering triumph, a symbol of connectivity and progress. But it also represents something else: the tightening grip of integration, the gradual erosion of Hong Kong's distinctiveness, the slow merging into the greater whole. Hong Kong exists in a state of permanent tension between past and future. Between East and West, between autonomy and control, between preservation and progress. Mrs. Lamb, the rooftop gardener, understands this better than most. My vegetables grow in imported soil, she says, watered with purified water, under sunlight filtered through pollution. Nothing here is natural anymore. Everything is maintained, controlled, managed. But the vegetables still grow. Life persists. That's the miracle. Not that we've built so high, but that we can still grow anything at all in this concrete garden suspended in the sky. Shanghai. Shanghai is a global center for finance, commerce, technology, and culture, ranking among the world's most populous metropolises. After the Opium Wars, the city was forced to open to foreign trade, leading to its transformation into an international port. Its skyline is distinctly futuristic, with landmarks like the Oriental Pearl Tower, a communications structure composed of 5 large spheres. A taxi driver named Lao Zhang has navigated Shanghai's streets for 28 years. He's seen the city multiply in size, in height, in ambition. In 1995, Pudong was farmland, he says, weaving through traffic. Actual farms, vegetables growing where those towers stand now. I remember because my uncle had a small plot there. The government bought it, gave him an apartment in the new development. He died 2 years later. Never adjusted to living in the sky. Missed the soil. You can take a farmer out of the farm, but you can't take the farm out of the farmer. He drives past the Shanghai Tower, 632 meters of glass and steel spiraling into the clouds. Beautiful, right? I think it's lonely. A building that tall has no neighbors. It stands alone, looking down on everything. That's Shanghai now. The tallest, the fastest, the most advanced, but alone. We've outgrown our friends. Cities that were our equals are now far behind. What do you do when you have no peers? You just keep building higher, I guess. The maglev train connects Pudong International Airport to Longyang Road Metro Station. It's the world's first commercially operating maglev, holding the record as the fastest train globally, capable of reaching speeds of 431 kilometers per hour. A maintenance technician for the maglev has worked on the system since its inception. People think it's magic floating on magnetism, he explains. It's science, but science so advanced it feels like magic. The train never touches the track. Zero friction. That's how it goes so fast. But zero friction also means zero forgiveness. One calculation wrong, one sensor malfunction, and disaster. We check everything 3 times, 4 times. We don't sleep well. Those of us who keep it running. He confesses a secret fear. Sometimes I wonder what we're rushing toward. The train goes 4, 3, 1 kilometers per hour. Why? To save 20 minutes? Are those 20 minutes worth the risk, the cost, the complexity, or have we become addicted to speed itself, unable to tolerate anything slow, anything patient, anything that takes time? Maybe the real danger isn't the train crashing. Maybe it's us, losing the ability to be still. Shanghai epitomizes modern China. Ambitious, futuristic, ever reaching upward. But beneath the gleaming surface, questions linger. Who is this progress for? What is lost in the race toward tomorrow? Can a society move too fast, outpacing its own humanity? The city doesn't pause to answer. It just keeps building, climbing, accelerating into a future it's creating faster than it can understand. We have journeyed through sinkholes that swallow light and mountains that pierce clouds. We've walked bridges suspended over abysses and roads that cut through impossible terrain. We've met monks who live in temples that shouldn't stand and engineers who built structures that defy comprehension. China reveals itself as a land of contradictions, ancient and futuristic, natural and artificial, sacred and commercial, preserved and demolished. Every wonder contains a shadow. Every achievement demands a sacrifice. Every leap forward leaves something behind. The grandmother tending vegetables on a rooftop. The monk meditating in a hanging temple. The widow serving tea in a gorge where her husband fell. The worker who gave 2 fingers to build a highway. The maintenance man who walks above a 565-meter void. The taxi driver who remembers when towers were farmland. These are the witnesses. The human voices that remind us, behind every statistic is a story. Behind every structure is sweat and blood and tears and dreams. China is not just a place. It's a question that each generation must answer. What are we willing to pay for progress? What should be preserved and what should be sacrificed? When do we stop building upward and learn to tend the ground we already have? The mountains will outlast our answers. The rivers will flow long after our bridges collapse. The earth will reclaim everything we've built, given enough time. But for now, in this brief moment of human history, China stands as testament to what we can achieve when we dare to imagine the impossible and what we lose when we refuse to accept limits. The old farmer, Elder Yusuf, still planting trees in Shanshan at age 94, knows this truth. The desert is patient. It can wait 1,000 years. But we water the plants every day. This is our answer to eternity. Perhaps that's the final lesson. Progress isn't measured in bridges or towers or trains. It's measured in daily devotion, the grandmother tending her rooftop garden, the monk sitting in meditation, the maintenance worker checking cables for the 1,000th time. The spectacular wonders draw our eyes, but the quiet persistence sustains us. China has shown us both. The impossible made real and the real made impossible. The future built on the bones of the past. The eternal struggle between human will and natural law. We leave China, but China doesn't leave us. It plants questions in our minds like Elder Yusuf plants trees. Some will take root, some will grow, some will bear fruit we cannot yet imagine. The dragon still sleeps beneath the mountains, the spirits still walk the mist, the lights still appear on the highway at 2 a.m., the temple still hangs on the cliff, the bridge still spans the void, and somewhere, someone is climbing. Someone is building. Someone is daring to imagine what comes next. The journey never ends. It only pauses, waiting for the next traveler brave enough to see what lies beyond the possible. Farewell, China. Until we meet again in dreams and in the spaces between what is and what could be. This is not an ending. This is an invitation, dedicated to the 22 workers who died building Duge Bridge, to the 4 workers entombed in Tunnel 17, to Elder Yusuf and his trees. To every grandmother growing vegetables in the sky, to all who built wonders and paid the price, your sacrifices are not forgotten.